guys, what's going on? This is Adrian and you're listening to the Stonerd Podcast. Thank you for listening. Let's get to the episode breakdown right away. We're going to be talking about BBWs. If you don't know what that is, maybe you will know after you listen to the podcast. We'll also be talking about sports, and that'll be it. We'll wrap it up after that. Joe Rogan has the record for being the longest podcast. Well, I have the record for being the shortest podcast, and this is how we do it. Alright, let's get it. You know how there is a category for girls who are big, like BBW? I just noticed that there isn't a category for guys, BBG or something like that. Like, there isn't any. And it's not like guys care if they're big or not. They just embrace it sometimes. Like, I'm fat, whatever. I'm too lazy to do anything about it. It's kind of that mentality. Like, I guess if I put my mind to it, I could do something about it, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. But for girls, it's not that they're lazy. I feel, and this is just a feeling, I don't know this for certain, okay? So don't get angry. I just feel like with girls sometimes they're too proud. I feel like they take pride in being big. There's been many instances where I'm like online looking around and somebody who's big will post something like, "Oh, I'm big and you gotta love it. And if you don't love it, make room for the real man." The real man. Like that's the problem. The problem is that there isn't enough real men to fuck with her, you know? That's the problem. God forbid you take some responsibility and say, you know, it's on me to get in better shape. And I realize that not everybody is into the shape that I'm in. But the way they look at it is like, fuck you if you're not in the shape I'm in. You better get with it. And if you're not into the shape that I'm in, then you are an idiot. You are not a real man. And you gotta clear the line for guys who are real men who would otherwise fuck with me. But because I'm wasting time with you guys, the real men cannot get to me. So it's just really funny to see that. And hey, listen, I'm in no way, shape, or form going after the BBWs. I'll bang the hell out of a BBW, you know. So I'm not really picky like that. I'll bang anything. I'll bang it, bro. Okay? I'm not judgy. I'm just saying that I think it's funny. Like, usually a guy won't say that. A guy won't be like, yeah, jump on this D, and if you don't like it, then step aside because you're a fake female. You're not real. The real woman would fuck with this D. You know, like, or maybe there is. Who knows? I just don't see it enough. Maybe there is a guy out there saying those kinds of things. I just don't see it often enough to make a mental note of it. But with BBWs, I see it all the time. Like, there's so much pride that they have into, yeah, I'm a BBW, and this is a thing that happens. And I think the problem with it is that men are willing to bang anything because that's how we are wired. Obviously, you have certain thresholds. You know, I have a certain threshold that I try not to cross. But for the most part, guys will do anything. And, you know, I spare you the details. You know, it doesn't matter if you're like skinny, really fat, really crazy, like you're mental, toxic. It doesn't matter what's your mental state, what's your body shape. It doesn't matter. You will find a guy who will love you. You know what I'm saying? So it's a bit more difficult for guys. It's a struggle out there, I can tell you that much. Here's the thing. Okay, let me put it this way. I think there are more chances of you being a guy dying alone because you're a guy. Girls have the ability to choose who they fuck. You know, if they're not into you, you're just not gonna get any. But we don't have the ability to choose. We kind of have to get whatever we get. And that's why we do what we do, because we get whatever we get. But if you're a girl and you're not getting enough action, you can always pull some tricks that you girls do to attract more attention. And that's something that is on your plate, but we don't have anything on our plate. So it's a bit more difficult if you're a guy to get attention. In fact, I don't know what kind of tricks would a guy use to get attention, but the girls have many. From the top of my head, I could just mention be more friendly. When a girl is more friendly, that automatically gives you extra points. But yeah, girls definitely have the power. We kind of just go with the flow. So yeah, I'll bang a BBW. That's all I wanted to say. This wasn't like me judging your lifestyle. You do you, boo-boo. Moving on. Some of you guys know that I like sports, and I'm happy to see that they're coming back. Most of them already did. The NFL did. I'm not a huge fan. I don't know like all the stats and all the names of the players, but I do like to watch American football, and I also like regular football, as is known in most of the world. Although here we call it soccer, and I'm just happy to see that they're back and entertaining the public. And hockey's back also. F1 is back. I like me some F1 racing, if you don't know what I mean by F1. And obviously it's some of the same shenanigans that usually happens. Lewis Hamilton is just winning because he's really good, and he happens to be driving for the best team right now, which is Mercedes. The other teams are trying to keep up. Obviously, I like Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, but either the team or them as a driver keep making mistakes. And when you're driving against a Mercedes, you cannot make mistakes. So really happy to see that come back. If you're into F1, I would recommend watching on Netflix. This series is called Drive to Survive. It's a cool series where they explore like the behind the scenes stuff that happens, because all you see sometimes is just the races, and you don't see much of the drivers and the teams and how they feel. But on this series, you can go back and see all the drama that happens off the racetrack. And it's cool because you see things that you wouldn't otherwise see. The drivers fighting for better pay or a better position, or maybe a certain team is going to let go of a driver because they're not performing well. Or maybe you see the underdog who's fighting from behind and he wants to make it, and you see him put in the effort. Stuff like that I wouldn't think about when I was watching the races. Because when I first started watching the races, I would only think about the top three teams, which is Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull, and their respective drivers. But then through that series, I learned that McLaren, who's not like the worst of the pack, but it's like in the mixed, there's a driver there, Carlos Sainz, who's fighting to get better. And after I saw that episode where they dedicate kind of like that episode to him and his struggles to make it big in the sport or whatever, and after that series, I was just like trying to keep an eye on him. He was like on the 6th or 7th position, and I just, I started keeping track of him now, because I was like, oh, that's him, that's the dude. When before I wasn't really paying attention to him. They have this thing called like the best of the rest. You know how there is like first place, second place, and third place? Well, they have the others like 4th, 5th, and 6th. Like that's like the best of the rest. And they fight for those places. Like the little guys, the big guys will fight for 1, 2, 3. Well, the rest of the pack are fighting for 4th, 5th, and 6th. They fight for those spots like it's the winning spots. And I didn't know that before I saw the series. But now I'm like looking at them and I'm like, oh man, this is the middle of the pack. And they're fighting fiercely for these spots. So it's just interesting, and it's another level that I started looking at when before I wasn't actually paying attention. So something to look into if you're into F1 or if you're into racing in general. Talking about racing, Michael Jordan supposedly is planning on buying a NASCAR team, and I think that's cool. The dude has a lot of millions of dollars. Might as well do something with him. Like, I know he has a sneaker business where he gets a kickback from Nike, but you have all this influence and all this money. Might as well be one of the few black guys, because I think there's only been like one more or two more. I don't know very well, but there are not a lot of black people in the NASCAR business, is what I'm saying. So him using his money and influence to bring some sort of diversity to NASCAR, I think that's good. I know people won't like it. I know that there will be people who will be angry that he's like pushing his agenda into NASCAR, but I think it's cool, man. Anything that Michael Jordan does, I think is cool. So whatever. I'm with it. And I'll watch it. Bubba Wallace will be his driver. I'm looking forward to that. So hate it or love it. That's what it is. And this has been the Stonerd Podcast. And I'll see you guys on the next one.